Welcome back, Truth Seeker. March 22nd, 2024 is a date we've been talking about for 10 years. And of course, March 22nd, 2024 was a date full of huge headlines, from what happened in Russia to Kate Middleton's big scare with cancer to Yale's super duper win while the school's 322 years old on 322 with the huge upset and payout as we nailed, along with a ton of other upsets as we do year after year. Anyway, the reason we were waiting for March 22nd, 2024 is because we knew it was the day the Georgia Guidestones would celebrate their 44th anniversary of their unveiling. And 44 is a number that has a lot to do with the Georgia Guidestones. Again, they were unveiled March 22nd, 1980. As we know, they're no longer standing because they came down on George W. Bush's 76th birthday, July 6, 2022, and that was no surprise because they had the Skull and Bones fingerprints all over them, and Bush is arguably the most famous member of Skull and Bones alive at this time. But again, March 22nd, 1980, they were unveiled. Yesterday was the 44th anniversary. If you're not familiar with the Georgia Guidestones, they're a pledge from the New World Order to depopulation, why the Earth's population must be reduced to 500 million. And again, you got to ask, if that is the plan of the cabal, how do they achieve that? How do they take a population that's close to 8 billion at this moment in history and shrink it down to 500 million? Well, we've heard people like Bill Gates, who operates out of the 44-city Seattle, as we'll get to Georgia, the fourth state in order of statehood, the 44th state. And by the way, this Chick-fil-A headline from this same day, Chick-fil-A is headquartered in Georgia. But how do they get the population down to 500 million? And, you know, my favorite author, Kurt Vonnegut, he wrote about such things and how such things could be achieved by evil people through chemicals. And, of course, something that's different about the world right now than what our ancestors faced, not even 100 years ago, is the food, because our food is GMO. It's full of all kinds of things like chemicals and preservatives and antibiotics. And we're told by things like the federal, whatever administration that our food is safe, our water's safe. But is it really? You start to look at who's running these administrations. You see they're guys that used to work in the corporations and lobbied hard to cut regulations because they want to put certain chemicals and preservatives in our food that, improve shelf life and profitability for these companies. And you start to realize the food that's out there, the first priority of it is profit rather than the people. And I actually had a group I started in college called Profit Over People, and trying to raise awareness about these things. But think about it. On March 22nd, this huge Georgia-based company who's always had this pledge to clean chicken says they're going to roll it back and they're going to start using, the chicken with antibiotics in it. And of course, a lot of people are already eating this kind of food, but Chick-fil-A is making this announcement that they're downgrading their food to make sure they have an ample chicken supply for their growing brand. And again, that's where it becomes profit over people. So here's where this gets really interesting. Again, you learn gematria. Gematria, the Kabbalistic practice of coding numbers into words. We've always pointed out why the Georgia Guidestones were in Georgia in light of them being a pledge to depopulation. And again, the last thing in the Georgia Guidestones, Rule 10, is be not a cancer on the earth. Of course, on March 22nd, the 44th anniversary, we got the big headline about Kate Middleton's cancer. And in Gematria, cancer equals 44, like chemo, like kill. 44 is a deadly number. 4 is the number associated with death. And again, Georgia is the fourth state in order of statehood. But notice how also in Gematria, Chick-fil-A equates to 62 with the alphabetic order, 44 with numerology applied, just like Georgia, just like genocide. Now, I'm not saying they're going to genocide the world's population and get it down to 500 million through the Chick-fil-A brand. What I'm just saying is how this ritual on this date by this big, well-known brand is symbolic. That's what I'm saying. And again, Chick-fil-A headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia. Atlanta, a predominant black city. We know who gets targeted first with all of these agendas. if you're new here, there are 4 base ciphers, just like how you saw up here, the alphabetic order and the alphabetic order with numerology. The other 2 ciphers are just running the alphabetic order in reverse and in reverse with numerology. Notice how chicken, Georgia, and genocide all happen to be 37 in reverse numerology. And of course, chicken's a very common food, and cancer is a very common thing, and premature death's a very common thing. And it's because a lot of people can't afford high-quality food. You know, our ancestors, pretty much all food was high quality. There wasn't any GMO. There weren't all these chemicals in it. But food has changed. And now if you go to the store and you want the, preservative-free, free-range, high-quality product, it costs a fortune. Most people just can't afford it, especially if they have family and children. So they got to settle for the Tyson GMO, antibiotic-packed, who knows what else is in it. You guys, I forget exactly what year it was, but it was around 2005, 2006. It wasn't long after I got out of college. Our Congress voted so that certain preservatives that companies use no longer even have to be put on labeling. And at the time I was like, wait a minute, like, what is it, to save ink? Is it going to save these companies like fractions of pennies on the mass labels they produce? To not know what preservatives are in the food, and it's been that way for almost 20 years in this nation now. There's certain preservatives that get put in a lot of food, and they're not even on the label. And again, my thought back then is maybe the real reason is because there's going to be some announcement in the future. I mean, we've seen the government do this 1,000 times. They say, 30, 40 years ago, we thought it was totally safe, but actually it's horribly carcinogenic and kills you in high rates of cancer and disease and illness, and maybe it's causing this. But it's like 30, 40 years too late. And now there's things that are just so safe that apparently they don't even have to label them, but are they really? So just want to point this out in light of all the big rituals that went down on March 22nd. If you missed yesterday's work, check it out. Again, learn the code, see through the rituals, and understand why a company like this out of Georgia makes this announcement on the 44th anniversary. So, again, we've been talking about what will happen by the time the Georgia Guidestones turn 44 for a very long time, and that's why, again, if you guys weren't here in the early days when I started doing this in 2013, that was one of the reasons I said this period of 2024, 2025. A lot of things predict the year 2025 for catastrophe, from the Deagle website to the movie They Live. So we will see, but it's a reminder, take care of your health. Maybe make as many of your meals at home as possible so you know what's really in your food. Try to maybe save money by not spending it on the junk food, the chips, the sweet drinks that are bad for you, and maybe try and upgrade to that higher quality, preservative-free, product. That there is an agenda to get rid of us, you guys, and no doubt what's in the food we eat is a primary factor. Remember Bill Gates, he made his big pledge about how we can reduce population, and now Bill Gates is the same guy who owns the most agricultural land in America, which is a really creepy thought. And again, not trying to creep you out or scare you, but awareness is key to overcome the agendas. All right, Truth Seeker, we'll leave it there. Thank you to everyone who hits the like and the share. Thank you to everyone who supports the work. And until next time.